My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely unlock the door to my own shop. The bruises on my arms still throbbed, and I could feel my pulse hammering in my ears like a war drum. One thought consumed me. How did my brother's debt become my nightmare? Why did he gamble all the money? If you're new here, welcome to our channel, your go-to spot for the wildest Reddit-style stories on sibling rivalry, epic betrayal, and that sweet moment of revenge. Before we dive deeper, do me a favor. Take a second to subscribe, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. It really helps the channel grow, and trust me, you won't want to miss how this story ends. Ready? Buckle up, buttercups, because this is a roller coaster of family drama, debt collectors, police visits, and a twist so unexpected you'll have to ask yourself, am I the jerk? Or maybe I'm just the hero of my own story. Growing up, my older brother Ethan was always the golden child. Picture every Hallmark movie cliche: blonde hair, blue eyes, a perfect smile, praised for breathing. Meanwhile, I was the brown-haired kid who got the side eye for existing, the one always tinkering with engines and daydreaming about building the fastest motorcycle on the planet. Our dad, a no-nonsense, hard-working man, at least respected my passion for mechanics. Sometimes late at night, he'd pop into the garage and watch me wrestle with a greasy engine block. He didn't say much, never was a feelings guy, but I'd catch that hint of pride in his eyes. Mom, on the other hand, only had eyes for Ethan's sparkly achievements. If Ethan coughed politely, she'd call it an aria worthy of a Grammy. If I coughed, I got told to keep it down. Dad's sudden passing changed everything. A heart attack out of nowhere. I was devastated, but Ethan, he seemed more annoyed than heartbroken. Maybe annoyed is harsh, but while I was in shock, he was immediately sniffing around Dad's finances. I should have seen the red flags, but I was too lost in grief. According to Dad's will, Mom received his life insurance. The house would be held in trust for Ethan and me until we both turned 30. Then it would be sold, with the proceeds split evenly. The savings account was also set to be divided 50/50ths when I hit 30. Ethan's older by a couple of years, so he'd already be past that milestone. It was Dad's fair way of supporting us both. Except Ethan had this little addiction: gambling. It started small, online poker, a weekend in Atlantic City. Then it snowballed. Mom was in total denial. "Boys will be boys," she'd chirp while ignoring that mounting stack of unpaid bills. And me? I was working my tail off at a local motorcycle shop, saving every penny, longing to open my own custom bike garage. It was the only dream I'd ever had, my one shot at making something that was truly mine. A few months before my 30th birthday, Mom called for a family meeting. The moment I walked into the living room, I knew something was up. Ethan was leaning back on the sofa, arms crossed, wearing that smug grin he'd perfected over the years. Mom was wringing her hands like she was about to confess to murder. "Sweetie," she said, avoiding my eyes, "there's something you need to know about the inheritance." My stomach sank. I forced myself to stay calm. "What's going on?" Mom swallowed hard. "Ethan borrowed the savings money." "All of it," Ethan corrected, completely unashamed. He gambled it away, honey," Mom finished, tears in her eyes. "But he didn't mean it. It was an honest mistake, right?" She turned to Ethan for support. Honest mistake? That was Dad's entire life's work, the nest egg he built through sweat and sacrifice, and Ethan just blew it on a roll of the dice. "You deserved it more?" I echoed in disbelief. My blood felt like it was boiling. "I'm Mom's favorite," Ethan practically purred, shooting me a condescending smile. "I had plans, big plans, unlike your greasy bike obsession. I might have lost it right then and there if I hadn't felt my heart suddenly pound in a strange, irregular way. A spike of pain tore through my chest. I'd been dealing with stress-induced palpitations for a while, something the doctor said to watch. Yeah, no kidding. Great timing. I got so dizzy I had to close my eyes. I knew if I stayed another minute, I'd say something I couldn't take back. So, I simply turned around and left, ignoring Mom's frantic pleas not to go. For weeks, I was lost. My hands shook whenever I tried to work on an engine, and I woke up almost every night in a cold sweat. The palpitations got worse. I thought about going to the hospital, but I didn't have the money for that kind of scare, not with my inheritance gone. Then one afternoon, an unfamiliar car pulled up outside the motorcycle shop where I worked. A burly man in a cheap suit got out, clenching a folder with both hands. He stormed in, eyes scanning the place until they landed on me. "You Ethan?" he barked. No," I said, stepping back. "I'm his brother." Without warning, he grabbed my shirt collar. "You tell that deadbeat brother of yours he can't hide forever. He owes my boss big. If I don't get the money, I get collateral." My heart hammered so loud I thought I'd pass out right there. Collateral? That was a step beyond the usual friendly reminder to pay up. This was a serious debt collector. Ethan must owe them a fortune. I managed to shove his hand off. Look, you got the wrong guy. I don't owe you anything. Oh, you don't, he sneered, tossing a crumpled piece of paper onto my workbench. I glanced down and recognized my family's address, Mom's house. We know exactly where your sweet mother lives. If Ethan doesn't pay, guess where we're heading next? My vision blurred around the edges. The palpitations roared in my chest. I was angry, terrified, and outraged all at once, but mostly I felt something else starting to percolate beneath the surface, a cold, calculating desire for revenge. My mind drifted back to a conversation with Dad years ago. He'd mumbled something about backup plans, real estate, and side hustles. Mom never wanted to hear about it, so Dad kept it quiet. She was fixated on Ethan's future as the golden boy, maybe becoming a doctor, maybe a lawyer. Meanwhile, Dad was squirreling away investments. I found Dad's old lawyer's number in a dusty address book. When I called him, he sounded surprised. "I've been waiting for you to reach out," he said. "Your dad left explicit instructions that if anything happened to the inheritance, you'd need these." These turned out to be a portfolio of real estate investments, small fixer-uppers, nothing flashy, but all in neighborhoods on the rise. The combined value was huge, way beyond what we'd had in the savings. Ethan was never told about it. Mom never asked. Dad, it seemed, wanted me to have a fallback plan if things with Ethan ever went south. And boy, had they gone south. With the lawyer's help, I quietly liquidated the properties. The proceeds flowed into an account solely in my name. I had more than enough to open my dream motorcycle shop. Heck, I had enough to buy half the city if I wanted. But that wasn't the point. The point was, for once, I held the power. Part of me wrestled with guilt. Am I the jerk for not telling Ethan about Dad's hidden investments? Am I just as bad for wanting revenge? Late at night, as I wrestled with insomnia and that tight band of pain across my chest, I thought about how Dad always preached fairness, how he believed in equal shares. If things had gone normally, Ethan and I would have split everything from the start. But the key word was normally. Ethan had gambled away the original inheritance, and then I was getting threatened by debt collectors on top of it. Was I doing something cruel, or was I simply reclaiming what was rightfully mine? In the end, I told myself that Ethan had chosen his path. Gambling was no accident. Ignoring repeated warnings wasn't a one-time mistake. And Dad's secret real estate? That was Dad's way of making sure I didn't end up with nothing. I didn't want to be a jerk, just wanted to survive. But part of me still wondered. Determined to honor Dad's quiet hustle, I found a massive warehouse in an up-and-coming industrial district. I bought it outright. Next, I hired contractors to refurbish the space into a fully decked-out motorcycle workshop, complete with a showroom, a customization garage, and even a little coffee corner for riders to hang out. I called it Ironclad Customs, a nod to Dad's rock-solid practicality and my love of all things mechanical. Word spread fast among local bikers, gearheads, and social media influencers. Soon, my shop was the talk of the town. We had a waiting list for customization jobs, and I'd never felt so alive. But there was a shadow over my success. I kept expecting that debt collector to return, or worse, show up at Mom's doorstep. My palpitations weren't going away, and I was too stubborn, or too broke, ironically, to handle all the medical testing. Everything felt fragile, like I was walking on a tightrope. My phone buzzed one evening just as I was locking up the shop. It was Mom, her voice tight. "We need to talk, at the house, now." Against my better judgment, I drove over. Ethan was there, wearing a gaudy gold watch and reeking of cheap cologne. Mom had on her usual expression of pained confusion, as though she couldn't understand why life wasn't perfect anymore. "So," Mom began with a watery smile, "I have wonderful news. Ethan is going to buy the house. He secured a loan." She pushed some documents toward me. "We just need your signature, honey." I glanced down at the papers. Buried in the fine print was a statement that I was waiving my claim to any share of the house and the savings account, my entire inheritance. "You're serious?" I asked, trying to keep the fury out of my voice. "Ethan gambled everything away, yet you think it's fair I give up any right to what's left?" Ethan rolled his eyes. "You have that fancy new shop, don't you? You're rolling in cash. You don't need this. It's only fair that I get something." "Fair?" My heart was thundering again. I could barely breathe. "Well, that's interesting," I said quietly, reaching into my bag for a folder of my own. "Because Dad left me something else. Something you never bothered to look for." I spread the documents on the table. Deeds, bank statements, legal agreements. The real estate Dad had invested in. The money I'd made from selling them. My thriving business. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "Where did all this come from?" Ethan's eyes bulged. "Why didn't you tell me? You've been hiding Dad's money? I shrugged, feigning innocence. I thought you weren't interested in boring savings, Ethan. And anyway, I'm not here to rub it in your face. I'm here to sign over my share of the house. Just then, a knock rattled the front door. Mom got up, looking nervous. I followed her to the entryway and found the same debt collector from the shop, looming like a thundercloud. You again, I said, tension coiling in my gut. Ethan appeared behind me, face draining of color. The collector smirked. Ah, so you're all here. Saves me a trip. Mom stood frozen. Ethan tried to speak, but his throat seemed to close up. Your boy here, the collector said, jerking a thumb at Ethan. Owes my boss big time. He's behind on every payment plan he set up. We're talking tens of thousands. And guess who co-signed some of those loans? His eyes slid to Mom, who looked like she might faint. Ma'am, I'm real sorry, but if we can't settle up, we're going to have to start repossessing assets, like this house. I felt my blood run cold. Repossession of Mom's house? Sure, I was furious at both of them, but I didn't want to see Mom homeless. She was complicit, yes, but also willfully blind. This was a line I never wanted crossed. Ethan lost it. He lunged at the debt collector, shouting, I'll pay you back, just give me more time. The collector shoved him aside, sending Ethan crashing into the hallway table. Lamps shattered, picture frames cracked. Chaos erupted. Mom was screaming. I grabbed Ethan to stop him from making things worse, and the collector twisted my arm behind my back, causing a sharp jolt of pain. My chest went tight, palpitations raging. I gasped for air. At that moment, a neighbor, probably alarmed by the screaming, called the police. Sirens blared outside in minutes. Officers poured into the house, separating everyone. I was trembling, struggling to breathe, heart pounding like a jackhammer. One officer quickly realized I was in distress and called for an ambulance. Ethan and the debt collector were both red-faced, screaming accusations at each other. The police calmed them down, took statements, and threatened to arrest them for assault. Meanwhile, a paramedic checked my vitals. My heart rate was through the roof. The paramedic warned me, you need to watch your stress levels. Your blood pressure's dangerously high. If this keeps up, you could be looking at a heart attack down the road. As they loaded me into the ambulance, I caught a glimpse of Ethan, slumped on the sofa, hands in his hair. Mom was crying, apologizing to the police. The debt collector glared at me like I was to blame for everything. I spent the night in the hospital under observation, exhausted, my nerves frayed. By the next morning, I felt a grim resolve settle in. I needed to end this, for my own health, for my own sanity. I drove straight to the warehouse, ironclad customs, ignoring the throbbing in my chest. There, I sat down with my lawyer and hammered out one last plan. Later that day, I confronted Ethan at Mom's house, this time with the police on standby outside, just in case. Mom was pale, eyes darting between me and her precious golden child. Ethan looked worn down, like a gambler who just realized the house always wins. Ethan, I said quietly, I'm done. I'm signing over the house to you, 100%. It's yours. And with it, the mortgage, the debt, everything. The collectors can't come after Mom if you refinance the house in your name only. You settle your debts like a man, or you lose everything. Understand? He blinked, disbelief warring with relief in his eyes. Wait, you're just giving me the house? No, I'm trading. You want the house? You give up any claim to what's left of Dad's estate, the real estate I sold, the shop, the money I made. You don't touch a single penny. Ever. Mom's voice trembled. But what about me? I sighed. I'd arranged for a small monthly stipend from the business to help her if she needed it, on the condition that she wouldn't funnel it to Ethan. The moment she did, the deal was off. Ethan stood there, fists clenched. This is blackmail. I squared my shoulders. It's justice. You gambled away my future, almost got me beaten up by your debt collectors, and you left Mom in financial ruin. But I'm the jerk here? I paused, letting the words sink in. If you'd done the right thing from the start, we wouldn't be in this mess. Ethan struggled to keep the house. He worked odd jobs, tried a few more gambles, never learned his lesson, I guess. The debt collector eventually squeezed most of the money out of him. If you enjoyed this saga, full of family drama, debt collectors, and a dash of police action, be sure to subscribe. Hit that like button and leave a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I read every one, and I love seeing how far this channel's stories can travel.